And we'll do it live. Good morning. We're doing some Friday morning anti-genocide posting. And I don't know if you noticed, but I've got a really great meme on my thumbnail in the front, which says, "Stop rewarding genocide, defund Israel." Stop rewarding genocide, defund Israel. And it's got an Israeli soldier with the rainbow flag, which is the flag of genocide. That is the flag of genocide. It's always been the flag of genocide. In fact, the rainbow flag, which was started by Harvey Milk. Sheesh. The rainbow flag, which was started by Harvey Milk, was the flag of the transhumanist movement. That's what the flag represents. It represents transhumanism. That's actually what it is. It's a transhumanist flag. The rainbow flag is a transhumanist flag. They're beyond human. They're no longer human. They're no longer part of their physical form. So they're beyond that. They've transitioned away from being human, and now they're into this other thing. Once you've transitioned over into not really being limited by your human form, you're freed up to commit all kinds of acts of terrorism and violence. And that's what we see going on in Gaza. And that's what we saw happen in Europe during the 1920s under communism. And that's what we saw in the 2000s in Iraq under what do you even call that? Republicanism? George Bush republicanism? It was really just Zionism, same thing. So under George Bush, Iraq was Zionism, and Gaza today being exterminated is Zionism, and 1920s exterminations of around 30 million people in Eastern Europe, that was also Zionism, because the Zionist group got control around the mid 1800s. It was the Rothschilds. When the Rothschilds came to power in Europe, that was the foundation of the Zionist group that was now in control of the Bank of England, and then they got control of New York and the rest. So they've been in control since before the Civil War in America. They got control of the British stock market before the Civil War in America. And so then they set up their operations in America and laid the groundwork for what we see now. But so I really like this meme because I think this is the perfect, because what I've been seeing is all this propaganda from Ben Shapiro and Brian Mast and these other types of people that support genocide. They just support exterminating people, right? They really do. And I like this meme because it properly identifies who are the exterminationists. It's the people with the rainbow it's the transhumanists. The transhumanists are the exterminationists, and the rainbow flag is the flag of transhumanism, because the whole idea of, let's say, living as something other than your physical form means you've transitioned beyond being a human being. You're no longer just a human being in your mind. You're beyond humanity. Now, there's an interesting thing about that is there's two sides to that, because as a spiritual being, okay, if it's just purely as a spiritual being, you could say that a spiritual being that's animating the universe, the factor that's animating the universe, is in fact not part of the universe. So it is actually beyond that at its core. But so what happens is this is like a mockery of that. It's always a mockery of God. That's what it is. That's what it is. It's a mockery of God. The transhumanist movement is a mockery of God. So whereas God is the dimension that animates the world, the animative force in the world that created the world in a certain pattern, right? Like the natural laws of the universe follow a certain pattern of positive and negative, male and female. If you ever get a chance, read the laws of Hermes, also known as Trismegistus, also known as Thoth. This is the Hermetical book, the Hermetical. Hermetical, like Hermes. Where you get the word, it's a hermetically sealed building, let's say, a hermetically sealed. That means no air can get in and out. It's sealed. It's like a secret, right? Well, this is called the doctrine of Hermes, which is totally available now, but at one time was considered secret, I guess. And it's about how the universe has certain laws. One of them has to do, I can't remember all of them. I think there's like 7. One of them has to do with the law of male and female, that this is a pattern throughout the universe. So the animative force God, which created the universe, has a certain pattern in the universe of positive and negative, and male and female, and high tide and low tide, and the different variations of energy, right? The energy patterns, and that is the agreed upon image, the 3D image that we all are participating in. And we, of course, come from that spiritual dimension called God. Okay. Now, if you wanted to make a mockery out of that, then you would do what these people are doing, and you would say that you're not subject to any of that, so then you can turn everything against itself, and you see what I mean? Because you say, well, I'm not subject to any of that, and so I'm going to take this and put it with that and put it with this, and do all the opposite of the pattern of the universe. And you can do that, and the result is death. That's the whole thing. See, the way that God created the universe and animates the universe, the result is life, and there's some death that goes along with it, because forms live and die, right? But when you mock God, and you do this route of the rainbow transhumanist group, then you're saying that you're not subject to any of God's laws, because you're beyond them when you're in the form, and you're like, I'm beyond them, and I don't have to. We're going to make our own laws, and you're following a path of death, because all of it leads to death, right? All of the practices of the transhumanist rainbow people leads to death. That's where they're leading. Now, that reminds me of another passage from the Bible, which I was just thinking about this morning, which is, don't resist evil. I've always disliked this passage, because I've always been a fan of vigilante justice. I believe in vigilantism. I really do. But even though I believe in that, I'm looking at this passage from the Bible, which says, do not resist evil. And I always hated this. I'm like, how can you allow all this evil to happen? Well, what I'm saying is, one way we could look at this passage is say, it's not that you shouldn't be against the evil. This passage assumes that you're trying to do something, and that people are getting in your way, right? So you're trying to make the better place a better world. You're trying to bring enlightenment to the world. You're trying to bring truth to the world and make things orderly and well. And then you have these evil people that come along and try and put a stop to you. And instead of fighting them or killing them, you just go on about your business, and you don't resist them. You just keep doing what you're doing. You keep bringing enlightenment to the world. You keep bringing goodness to the world without stopping to fight them. Now, there's times where you might have to defend yourself. So that passage doesn't work in all situations. There are times where it's actually your responsibility and your obligation to do what is right, to use force. And I've actually, believe it or not, had arguments with people on this, which is, you have these, I gave an example to someone who said they were Christian. I don't know if they really were, but they said they were, and they were followers of the Pollyannish version of Christianity, which I reject Paul. Not that everything he said was bad, but I think that he tried to form his own version of the religion and make it all about him and his writings, right? When we already had the 4 Gospels. But that's another story. So anyway, somebody who was I call it a follower of Paul, was explaining to me, that there's no circumstance where you should ever use force. And I'm like, what if there's somebody who's assaulting a toddler, a baby, let's someone who's assaulting a toddler, violently or sexually, an infant, a newborn, maybe it's Dave Rubin, and he's assaulting one of his trafficked babies. isn't it your obligation to put a stop to that and use force if you have to prevent that act from occurring? Of course it is. That's your obligation. If you're truly following God, if you're truly following what is just, what is right, doing what is right, then you would use force in that situation. You would use force in that situation, right? So that passage, I believe one way we could look at it is to say, if you're doing your thing and people are trying to stop you from doing what is right, then rather than stopping and getting in a shootout with them or fighting with them or whatever, you just go on about your business of making the world a better place, bring enlightenment and truth to the world. So that's I think that's a reasonable way to look at that passage. So, but I like this meme that I came up with because it shows the Israeli soldier standing in Gaza with his rainbow flag, and this really encapsulates the whole transhumanist movement in this one image. It's genocidal. It's genocidal, masked in rainbow and happy colors and I'm about to sneeze. So it's like a genocidal cult. It's a global genocidal cult, like masked in this veneer of lovey-dovey, we love you, let's all love one another, it's all about love, while people are having their heads blown off and their limbs blown off, and there's just like they're having their whole cities are being massacred, and it's ethnic cleansing and it's genocide. And this is the kind of thing that's been going on since, against, well, this is I mean, I guess this has been going on, who knows how long, but I'm just talking about our history in Europe. This has been going on since, genocides in Europe. I mean, I don't think the Romans carried out genocides in Europe, did they? I don't believe they did. I know that the Romans carried out an assault in Judea, but did the Romans carry out genocides in Germany and in the Celtic regions? I don't know. I don't know that they were able to, because I think the Germans were pretty good at fighting back against them at the time. But so anyway, what we're dealing with is this. We're dealing with this rainbow transhuman movement. And so I posted this on Ben Shapiro's, because here's Ben Shapiro. This week, Israel found the corpses and hostages in a tunnel at UNRWA building. The ICJ is charged. So they're on this full court press of dragging out any Jewish person that was harmed since October 7th. In fact, mostly they've just been going back to October 7th and rehashing those old photos and those old videos. But since then, I mean, how many tens of thousands of people have been murdered by the Israeli government with the United States? I would say people keep saying the number 35,000. I think it's probably more like, I would say it's probably closer to 100,000 or maybe more. I don't know. I mean, so anyway, here's the point. The point is that this agenda is wrapped in this rainbow thing. Okay, and so we're heading into June. And guess what happens in June? You're going to have these rainbow flags all over the place, right? This is the transhuman movement. This is the same. That's what we need to get through the thick skulls of what we call conservatives, if we can. The people that listen to Dennis Prager and Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin and Buck Sexton and Clay Travis and all these other people that are on the radio and on Fox News, is that it's one and the same. The same people that are running these genocidal operations, whether it's in Gaza or what they did globally through the poison World Health Organization shots that we all were told we have to take. It's the same group of people. It's the same exact group of people doing it. It's always the same exact group of people. It was the people connected with Israel. It was the people connected with the banks, the World Bank and the World Health Organization and the Jesuit order with the Pope, and the people over here in America, in Washington, D.C., and in New York and in San Francisco. It's always the same group of people. and their flag is the rainbow flag. That's the flag of the international. We shouldn't even associate it just with, let's say, homosexuality, which is part of it. And I guess that's the thing is that act, if you're living your life that way, if you're living your life that way as a dedicated lifestyle, not just you did something here or there, but let's say your whole life is dedicated to living this way. Well, then you've literally transitioned away from being limited by your human form, right? So you're part of this thing called the transhumanist movement, and that's the core of it. When I've done research back into this group, it started with that flag. I think it was around the 1950s, actually, and it was a group they called the Progressive Movement that was actually shunned by the Communist Party because it's linked to the communists. The ones that started this were originally part of the Communist Party in USA. It was the Communist Party USA, and there were certain of these transhumanist people who were in fact homo, and they were not welcomed in the party. The party didn't like that, so they went off and started their own thing. And that was it. Now, but it wasn't just them acting on their own. It's not like these people are just acting on their own. These people have been financed and set up in like what do you call it? Some kind of like social camps, whether it was in San Francisco or in desert regions of the Mojave or in Arizona or New Mexico. They've had these places where they've developed these cults through the CIA to use as their future systems of operation, their future operating systems. And that's what they did with this guy. Harvey Milk was part of that, but there was another one. I can't remember his name because I don't remember all these people's names, but they were out of Los Angeles, and they were part of that whole thing. I don't even want to get into it because it kind of creeps me out. So what I'm saying is that flag symbolizes genocide. That flag symbolizes transhumanism. And so what I'd like to see in response to that in June is really, for Christianity, the time where Christ has ascended into heaven. Actually, last month in May, I believe that's the Christ ascension. Christ has ascended into heaven, and this is the peak of Christ's ascension into heaven. Should be celebrated in June. I know that the Catholic Church celebrates Christ's ascension in May, around May, or a little earlier, depending on when they have the Passover. But yeah. So what we could do now. June originally was also the month of the beginning of the year in the ancient Athenian calendar. It was like the first new moon of the summer solstice was the beginning of the year, and so Athens, of course, is where the Stoic order came out of, which spread around the world through Alexander the Great, and spread into Judea as a Stoic movement, which became the Essenes, which are linked to Christianity. So we have a connection there. So, but what I'm saying is that was in one of the old Greek calendars, that was summer marked the beginning of the year, the first new moon of the summer solstice. So you get the summer solstice. It's probably the new moon, probably closest to the summer solstice. I don't know the exact equation on how they did that, but maybe that would be good. And then what we could do is we have, instead of having rainbow flags, we will have crucifixes and images of we'll have Orthodox icons of Jesus Christ as like with like the solar, like with the solar beams shooting out from behind his head. So we'll have, instead of having rainbow flags, what we could have is we could have religious icons of Jesus Christ with solar beams just like shooting out from behind his head. And we'll have those flags flying all across America and all across Europe and all across England and Germany and Australia. We'll have these We'll have June will be the month of Christ's zenith in heaven, where he's like brilliantly shining. Because if you've read the Bible, Christ and God are always thought of in terms of light. So it's not paganism to associate God's light with the sun. It's actually not, because you're not really worshiping the sun. You're identifying God's word as being like the sun. You see, so it's like the sun, and that's the teaching, is it's like the sun. So then what you should do is, because the sun is at its highest point and it's June, instead of having transhuman death flags of genocide and mass murder, we will have Christ in his full glory with lights just shooting off from behind his head, showing that Christ is the eternal king of the universe. So I think that's what we should do. I think that's what we should do. Anyway, I'm going to go walk my dog and get to work. So have a good one. I'm weak in art. We need to transform tattoo artists from their misguided pursuit to doing this thing. You say, you are right. I'm so glad you posted that, because you know what? I hate tattoos. I hate tattoo parlors, and they are really good artists. And you're right. Why are they wrecking people's skin instead of doing beautiful art like what we need? You are right. We need to convert them. We need to convert them, man. You are my brother in Christ. We need to convert them and have them doing something productive. So anyway, have a good one. Thanks for posting that, and I will talk to you again soon.